Recording. All right. All right, Dr. Cook, if you could just give me your take on reflective practices. How have you used those in your school to improve both teaching and learning for your students and your faculty?
Okay. Yeah. I first was exposed to reflective practice, back when I was going through my doctorate. Read a lot of Argus and Schoen and reflective practice for school leaders, and I just really always connected with that cycle, that everyone goes through. When you do something, you plan something, you do something, then you see if it was effective or not, and then they usually go on to the next thing. I think what they started to say in reflective practice was, at what point do you need to just take a moment to sort of center yourself, center your organization, your teachers, students, or whatever on what it is that you're doing. So it was a little bit of that missing piece, I feel like, based off of that action research, mentality that you're always trying to do, you're trying to do more, you're trying to improve your organization. And I think it's important that you take that time to reflect on, how did we do it? It's even part of our, it's a part of our metacognition, when we're learning new things and we're thinking about things, part of that is, how did that impact me? How is this going to make me better? And I think that's where the underpinnings of all this. Now, when you get out into the field, and you're not, just researching articles and, looking at things, online, and get out into the quote unquote real world of school leadership, I think it provided a strong foundation for me to be effective and to be able to do this high-paced, high-energy job, because it provided me an opportunity to, stop and smell the roses and to, celebrate small wins and things of that nature. But it also required me to, enable others to act, that the piece where, how do we help others? First you got to help yourselves, then you start helping others. So through that process of, reflective practice, I go back to, the work of resident leadership and Boyatzis and McKee, who talk a lot about the cycle of sacrifice and the cycle of renewal. So as I started to see, how difficult it was to be a school leader and to see, the high levels of burnout and things like that, I started to, try to pay attention to those cycles of sacrifice where I'm, working extra, there's high stress time, emails and, parent conferences and employee discipline, student discipline, and all these things are circling around. And so what they talked about is you go through those cycles of sacrifice, and then what do you do during the cycle of renewal? And I started to think about, wow, I thought a lot about this when I was going through my doctorate, and now I'm out in the field and I'm like, what am I really doing? So a few years ago, I really started to take ownership of that and to start, trying some different things out, whether it be, exercising, eating better. And that got me so far. And then I was exposed to The Mindful School Leader, which is a great book by Kirsten Olson. And, basically just took real vignettes from school leaders and educators and gave us concrete examples of things that we could do, just either during the day, before school, after school, to get that connection back. So I know that's sort of a long intro, but it kind of got me through to all this. And then I would say in the last 2 years, it's just really exploded in my life.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I follow your blog, so I've read through several of those. One, I know you talked about that you blog 365 days 1 year. Does blogging kind of help you manage those reflective actions? Does it help you get all of those thoughts on paper, has it helped you in any way, shape, or form? I guess really has technology or any of those things that are kind of giving you maybe not an advantage, but a way to kind of mitigate that burnout, I guess you would say, limit your time, so to speak, more concentrated, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, you know, with every, you know, every action, there's a reaction. And, you know, for me, blogging, you know, is and was a really good, you know, outlet to share the things that were going on in the professional world or in my personal life, you know, with others.
Right.
Because as I was going through, you know, transitioning into becoming a school leader, and becoming like a connected school leader, you know, I began to start reading other people's blogs, and they were very, you know, they were open and honest and transparent. And so the technology, you know, has come so far. Like, you know, you can publish something, you know, in a blog, and it looks like it's a, you know, a professional thing.
Right.
Quite like the Huffington Post or, you know, whatever, like online, you know, news media that you're looking at. So I saw how easy it was. That is so a lot of those things like the graphic design and stuff, like you didn't have to think about all that. It was really just working on the content. And as much as I'm into technology, like I couldn't code, I couldn't make those things, you know, or design things quite like others do. So I was more into, you know, just providing the content. So it was a perfect medium, I thought, when I got in and I saw how easy it was, you know, write, you know, a couple paragraphs and throw a picture or video in, and that was that, you know. Like everything that I do, I always go and I jump in, you know, with 2 feet. So once I started blogging, and I had to blog more and more, and then, yeah, I did take that one challenge of blogging 365 days, you know, through a year. And part of that was just, you know, an exercise in, you know, determination, and, you know, it was a New Year's resolution. But yeah, I mean, the advent of technology really helped me transform as a school leader, because as I was connecting with other school leaders, I began to, you know, like I said, blog more, read more blogs, and then I was able to reference things that were, you know, on the other side of the country or the other side of the world of what school leaders were doing. It led me to start the Principal PLN podcast, which we podcast for a few years and just talked about different things that were going on in our lives, in our school. You know, Twitter, of course, you know, has been a great example of that. And then, you know, it led me into writing, you know, a book, and then 2 books, what I'd always wanted to do, and presenting, and technology became like the backdrop of a lot of that. And ironically, that's where I also found, you know, doing things like, you know, mindfulness practices, and, you know, finding different apps that could help out. Like I talked with you before about like Headspace, and, you know, and some of the other meditative apps that are out there. Because once again, it's taking things that seem so, you know, far reaching or difficult to manage, and then just putting it all right on your phone.
Right.
So that's been a huge help to me, you know, as a school leader.
Good deal. That's kind of actually, I mean, that's the direction that this whole course is kind of, that's the resources that I'm wanting to put out there, and the idea that I'm wanting to get out there is that it is an abstract. I mean, reflection is something that's abstract, but very simple all in the same time. But the technology you can grab that moment, that you can capture any moment, and then use it to reflect on. I mean, how simple is it to record a thought walking down the hall? If it's something you need to make a note, you can make a note of it in 30 seconds. But it's what do you do to come back to it? How do you grow from it? How do you relate that to what's going on in your school to make sure that you handle it in a different way or a better way, or maybe you need to handle it in the same way next time. But just kind of how those tools can make your life a little easier. But it can be overwhelming. I mean, if you're a doer, like you said, like yourself, then it can get overwhelming. I know you said that you've got to pull yourself away a little bit, because you eventually get in system burnout. I mean, overload, because there's so many great tools out there. You want to use them all, and then it's like,
Yeah.
system overload here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah, I've definitely gone through that and had to, sort of weather those storms as well. And I think that's part of it. That's part of it as well. I think as much as, people get involved with this, it also helps to share out, the downsides of it. And like you said, like, you could, on your phone, you could use Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and you can learn all these amazing things, but it also takes you sometimes away from, the present time, so those are some of the things that I actually learned through practicing, mindfulness and, um, kind of getting off the grid for a little bit to find out, okay, so there's got to be more of a balance.
right, right. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. That's my goal, is to mitigate and try to get to weed that out and get to some of that balance where you can kind of conceptualize a situation and make concise choices based on the technology that's there, I guess you could say. But I appreciate, I'm going to hit stop right now because